Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Strong Inside and Out, the place where you always get that small nugget of information to help you be a strong woman on the inside and out. And we made it through the first full week of 2025. And woo, for me, I don't know about you, but it has been a little bit of a doozy. I have to say, I did not anticipate we were going to get this cold down here in Houston. So that, of course, was a bit of a challenge. We didn't have any ice, we didn't have any snow, anything like North Texas, but it was cold and it was windy. So the feel like temperature was even colder. And then, of course, we got back to school this week and I never fully sleep that first week back. I don't know why. After a holiday break, it's like I have all these things running in my mind and I just never really fully rest. And so I've been running on little sleep this week. So I didn't get up and work on my business like I thought I was going to kick off the year strong, nor did I get all my workouts in. And in addition to that, we had a fire drill this week in the cold, which was planned, and then another fire emergency. Everybody's fine. Nothing like what's going on in the world, but I believe maybe somebody pulled the alarm. Anyway, that happened, and we did have to stand out in the cold for a while for them to figure that out. Whew, it has been busy, 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 busy. No, and then we got a bunch of rain and it just made everything even more miserable. However, we're alive. And this morning I woke up and the sun is shining and I got a run in and all the great things. Although I had to give my daughter a little pep talk. She said, I'm just grouchy. It's too cold, too long, which it's really only been a week. And so I had to send her that little song, I Can See Clearly Now. If you haven't checked it out, go on YouTube, check it out. But it's always one that just kind of motivates me and pumps me up when I'm feeling a little bit blue and a little bit down, especially when I know it's going to be a beautiful day outside. So, having said that, I have to share with you this week on the podcast a couple of things also hit me over the week as I have been just kind of contemplating life and trying to figure out what next steps are and all of the things. So I think many of you know I have a TED Talk coming up. I'm very excited about that talk. It's happening on February 1st. It's being recorded here in Houston. They said it would take about a month to then post to the TED network, but it'll be out there. I'm so excited for that because the message is really good. At least that's the feedback I'm getting. When I left the principal seat, one of the things I said I was committed to do is to continue to build and support teachers and find some kind of way I could contribute to solving the problem with a teacher shortage. And I know I've talked about it here on the podcast before. I've addressed it on social media. I provide coaching opportunities for teachers. I have some programs for brand new teachers to help teach them things that they don't get taught in their preparation programs if they go to a preparation program, the insides and out. And when I sat down to write this talk, I wanted to highlight some of those things. So I'm super, super pumped about that, getting that message out into the world and really jazzing it up with my personal style and all of the things. So that's exciting. And being back in a school made me start to realize, even though I think I was feeling some burnout a couple years ago when I did leave about a year and a half ago, deep down inside, over this year and a half, even though I want to have businesses and I want to continue to grow as an entrepreneur, and I'm not giving up on that, but I do feel like somehow, some way, the universe has been guiding me to really think about what is in my core. Most of you know my story if you've been a long time listener. If you haven't, I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was 6 years old. And I know that that sounds really, really strange, but I loved my teachers. My teachers always made me feel safe. They always listened to me. They celebrated with me, even when maybe I didn't always have that from other people in my inner circle. And they pushed me even after becoming a teenage mother and having to work full time, be a mom full time, eventually be a wife full time, and go to school full time and juggle all of that. And I had family around to support, and they did amazing things for us. But my ex-husband and I, we worked very hard for me to get that teaching degree and made a lot of sacrifice, especially moving out of our comfort zone and moving into a big city just so I could take on my very first position. But knowing that as a young child, it becomes part of your core. And I made this comment the other day to one of the other administrators on campus. And she said, not only is it part of your core, but you can feel it when you work with you. And that just kept resonating with me because I kept thinking, I can fight this, but it's really who I am. So now, how do I continue to support education while still running my business, still supporting leaders, still writing, still speaking, and still doing all of the things? So I do have some things that might be shifting into 2025 so that I am completely aligned. One of the things I teach leaders very often about is being authentic and embracing who you are. And that's what I want to talk about today on this episode is really you can fight who you're meant to be, or you can accept it, embrace it, celebrate it, and take all the steps to become it. So let's get started. Have you ever had those feelings where you see social media or you watch reality TV, or maybe you're in your inner circle in person, socializing with others, and you think, wow, what if I could just be more like her? Or maybe I could be more like that. And I think comparison definitely puts us in these situations where we want more. We want to emulate what we're seeing. And then, most recently, we've brought this term in of influencers. We've had influencing going on forever, right? Impacting, influencing, guiding us in these directions. But now it's become a social media kind of trend, right? It's become a buzzword, it's become a thing. And it makes all of us, especially as women, and I'm sure if there are men out there listening today, you can probably step back and go, oh yeah, I've even felt that at some point, because I know this is a conversation my ex-husband and I have had over the years. We see somebody else's life and it's different than ours, and we feel deep down inside, why can't I be that? That seems so glamorous. They are so lucky. I remember I had been teaching in my classroom about 4 years. I had been in the classroom 5. This was my 4th year. And I had been doing a lot of things within the building. And I believe that really is because I'm a natural leader. I've always been that person. But I loved being a classroom teacher. So the leadership roles that I started to take on were things like being a grade level chair for my team, being a mentor to other teachers, being able to head up committees within the building, be part of the PTA. Of course, I was a parent at the school as well. So it all kind of worked. And as we started to evolve as a campus, my principal started to pull my best friend and I into a lot of meetings and conversations and planning sessions because she saw us as leaders as well. Now, my best friend, her journey was a little different. She started a year prior to me. She wasn't a mom at the school, but we both had a lot of the same goals. I think that's why we become fast friends and had been friends for so long. And that fourth year, she calls me up right before school starts and she says, "Hey, I just got out of a meeting and I wanted you to be the first to know, besides her husband, that I'm leaving the classroom and I'm going to be moving into a leadership role." And I remember for a minute, and I'm not proud of this, but took a step back after the conversation. Of course, I told her how excited I was for her because I really was excited. But I stepped back and I said, why wasn't that me? Why her before me? The jealousy started to come out a little bit. And I know it was because I wanted, or I was starting to feel I wanted that recognition also. And maybe a little hurt that I hadn't been told by my principal that this was going to happen. It was a rough next year. She and I, we remained friends, of course, but I remember thinking when we were doing socializing outside of school, I didn't want to have conversations about school with her. And that was a change for us because we had talked about all of our plans and all of our goals for the work that we were doing as we were going out to happy hours and hanging out at the pool on the weekends and different things. And I made a big shift within myself because of those feelings I started to have. And then I started to feel angry with myself. And I think the anger was both angry that I wasn't good enough to be the first one, and anger that I started treating my friend that way. And it took me a minute. Now, little did I know that there was a big plan in motion. We didn't know that. And the following year, that's when I started to move into my leadership position. But it was a weird feeling for me because I've always been go girl power, supportive of other women. I want to see you build and grow. I did a lot of soul searching that following summer, and I started to realize that I think a lot of it was because I knew what was deep down inside me, but maybe I just wanted to be seen like her. Now, I know for some of you out there, you're probably saying, oh my God, girl, come on, get over that. This was years and years ago. Please remember that. But they were real feelings. And I did have to really work on myself during that time. But then as I did that work, I started to become more clear on my path. And when my principal did call me in and tell me I was being moved into a role shortly after that, a year later, I actually wanted to fight it at first. And I think that was my fear. Oh no, now it's here. What if I fail? What if I can't fulfill that? And I know many of you listening can understand that feeling as well. And so over the last year and a half, leaving out from the principal position, I have to say, that is a position. Sure, there were new things that happened all the time because you're working with people, and especially little people and their parents, right? So it does become a bit of a challenging situation. However, I started to get to a place where I felt as if I could do things so automatic. I knew how to design arrival of the day, dismissal of the day, lunch periods of the day. I knew what an effective instruction looked like. And I don't want to say that I was necessarily getting bored, But some other hurdles were kind of coming into play during the last 2 years, especially after COVID. And I started to feel that burnout. And even though deep down inside, I've always known I was going to be an educator, and I always knew I was going to be leading schools, really, even though I was trying to fight it. And I always knew that I would have some kind of connection even after leaving the principal seat. I didn't want to be that person. And I'm a little bit ashamed to say business owners were looking, especially strong female business owners, were looking very glamorous to me. And it made me start to think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And why can't I be that person? And why not me now? And okay, let's go do this. Not that I don't have a passion for having a business and for impacting people in a different way. That's all part of it. But I've been trying to figure out where my business fits into the business world. And maybe I've always known all along that it is something aligned with education, and not just necessarily educating adults on different things, but actually supporting educators. When I first decided that I was leaving, I was in a place where I was like, I'm done. I'm done with education. I'm going to be a life coach for women. I've designed my own life. It feels good. I've gotten through a lot of challenging times in life as a spouse and as a single, as a middle-aged woman, as a mom of a child and an adult child, and all of the things. So I felt like I could really speak to that. And I know I can, but I quickly realized, and that was, I'm telling you, within 6 months, that was not the thing that was giving me purpose. That was making me excited. So then I shifted and I started to think about, okay, if I did school turnarounds, schools are like organizations, like businesses. We just have small little customers, right? The children. I could help a business turn around. And I know that I could. I have systems and processes and procedures to do that. So I tried that for 6 months. And then I thought, maybe that's not the thing for me. So I shifted. And I knew that leaving the principal position, if I would have stayed in public education, would have been for me to start applying for positions that actually supported school leaders. And so I started to think leadership, because I've had so much experience and gained so much knowledge and skill. And that's where my latest shift has been. But even throughout all of this, I continued to sub in schools. I continued to talk with principals, network with school leaders, continue to support teachers with the book I released in May, continue to support them with coaching and different pieces that help keep education as one of those sacred kinds of professions where maybe we're not getting paid as much as doctors and lawyers, but we're just as important. And I think this hit me. I think it runs in my blood. So I ask you, have you had one of those moments where you realize what you're doing doesn't 100% align with who you are? That it automatically becomes clear, just as the song I opened with, I can see clearly now. And it's almost as if the clouds part and it's shining down on you. This is your direction. This is where you need to go. Now, is the path just now going to be smooth sailing and I don't have to do any other kind of work? Absolutely not. And it would be the same for you. But knowing your why, knowing your purpose, and actually having a purpose, a direction that resonates with who you are, that's an empowering feeling. You heard me talk about my story that I always knew I was going to be a teacher. My daughter was the exact opposite. My daughter was very theatrical growing up. I knew when she was 4 years old, although she was telling me she was going to be a doctor one day, and I know she could have. She's very intelligent. However, she always was acting in dress up clothes, trying to be a different person, entertaining, doing all of the things. And as soon as she got into elementary school and we had programs available, we tried many things. She was great at swimming. She was great at being in the choir. She was great at gymnastics when she did that for a while. Not so good with softball, but we learned and, grew. However, once that program opened up for her and she was in fourth grade, she was great at that. And it resonated with who she was. And she stuck with it all through her first year of college. And she said over and over and over, Mom, I'm going to be an actress. And I would say, that is great. What is our backup plan? And she would say, I'm not going to be a teacher. As we got through our first year of college and she decided to make a pivot, she still wanted to work in theater. So she decided to go into cosmetology for a while. And she wanted to do makeup and hair for theater. Okay, that's great. What's our backup plan? Mom, I'm not going to be a teacher. And when that didn't work out and she quit college and decided to go out into the world and work, she went to work for her dad, or a company that was very aligned with her dad's company. They did work together. And she said, Mom, I'm not going to become a teacher. And she worked in that job for about a year. And she sat me down one night at dinner and said, Mom, I'm going to become a teacher, but I'm never going to become a principal. Now, fast forward, she's 34, just got married. She's a specialist on her campus, so she's no longer just in a classroom teacher role, and moving up because I know she could do that. And she knows she can do it, and her district knows she can do it. But she didn't have such a clear path. She didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, well, not at 6 years old anyway, not at 10 years old, not at 20 years old, until she was about 27 years old for her to go, oh, I guess it was 26. But that's when she finally went, oh, I need to do this. None of us have to be on the same plan. None of us have to be on the same road to our destination. But I do believe 100% that when we get on the road that aligns most with who we are in our core, that's when we're going to feel the most fulfillment, the most joy, have the most motivation to actually go out and make it work, even on the hard days. So as we wrap up this episode this week, I want you all to be challenged this week and ask yourself, am I doing what I am meant to do? And if I'm not, is it time for a pivot? Because I don't care how old you are, it's never too late to change course. I don't care what situation you're in, if you have the true desire, you can make all of your dreams happen. But the dreams that are going to be most fulfilling are the ones that align solely with your core. All right. I hope you have an amazing week this week. Stay warm wherever you are. If you are in California listening, my heart goes out to you. Be safe out there. things can happen in a minute, and we just never know how that can impact our lives today or in the future. And let's just keep on keeping on. But most importantly, when you know where you're in alignment and you have that purpose, we can make big things happen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to share it out, and I'll see you next week right back here on Strong Inside and Out.